All right, I've been listening to classical music all day. Time to get energized with some old school M. I was talking about therapy, different types of therapy I was in. After my mom had her postpartum depression and breakdown, she went to therapy with my dad, which back in the 60s, people didn't do that. But every Tuesday night, they went to therapy. We got a babysitter. They drive down to Akron, and it was a group concept. And at that time, this is novel. There weren't a lot of group therapies around. Mark Cook, his name comes up again, would actually fly to New York. They'd fly him to New York City to facilitate. When do you quit? To facilitate things there. And so it's so ironic that 15 years later, I was seeing the very same Mark Cook as he watched the product of my parents' dysfunction. And that was a tremendous advantage because he knew everything from the very beginning, all the way back to when I was a toddler. I don't think they ever told him how they abused me. But so Mark Cook was facilitating therapy in the 60s, and then he was giving me one-on-one therapy. This was Freudian therapy, where you talked about things and you're concerned, you talked about your past, and I thought it was cathartic, but I didn't, I wasn't too thrilled. I think I did 3 years with him, and the best part was that as I would drive to Akron from Cleveland, I'd stop at my grandmother's house. And at that time, my grandmother's was a widow, and she had a woman called Judy. And Judy was a bad alcoholic and kind of a thief. She would pretend to be my grandmother with the license and get into the lock boxes and, just shady behavior. And yet she was high up in the church, the Catholic Church. And I couldn't help but gasp when she told me she was the one that was handing out the wafers or holding the wafers or whatever the wafers you do. Yikes. And so Judy was out of the picture once my grandmother was moved into home hospice program, but Mark Cook stayed in the picture, and he was good. He was good. It really was like a release most of the time, sometimes anger. I was getting in touch with rage for the first time of my life, and totally different than Call Me Marty Smith, who I talked before in the behavioral concept of getting out and doing something. Had trouble driving, so Mark would have me get in the car and drive him around, and Marty. Mark was more of a, talk it out guy. He used the Socratic method of asking questions and sitting around pretending to be relaxed. He came to my mother's funeral, and ironically, he had a major panic attack and had to rush out of the room, almost run out of the room. And so, so much for therapists sitting back and drinking their diet Pepsis to try to stay awake and pretending to be interested and, collecting that $100. And it cuts both ways. My brother Matty had his neighbor, I'm not going to give his name, but charges $200, used to. So I bet it's $250 an hour. He takes zero Medicaid, zero Medicare, and zero any other type of insurance. This is cash up front. Fuck, you could go to a whore for $250 an hour and get your system cleaned out just as well. It's crazy. And these guys don't take notes because they're culpable. Most of these rich fuckers who could afford that are culpable, so he probably takes no notes or pretends there's no notes, and I don't know. It's a strange business making money off of sick people.